I am just pleased as punch to introduce to you our speaker for this lunchtime session. I've only met Nikki, as she wanted me to call her, a little bit ago, thank you. But I have to tell you, I would like to be her when I grow up. She's a fabulous woman with a fabulous resume who is going to talk to us today as we continue to eat. So let me just read through some of her notable things from her wonderful career. Nikki is a consultant, speaker, executive coach, and author who focuses on performance strategies that help organizations and individuals achieve sustainable results. Over the last 25 years, she has provided strategic business consulting and coaching nationally and internationally to thousands of corporations, executives, entrepreneurs, and their management teams with a focus on nonprofit governance and strategy, change management, leadership, and fundraising. As a former nonprofit CEO, she was responsible for all the facets of its fundraising and understands firsthand the many challenges nonprofits experience. Nikki has earned the highest professional award, the National Speakers Association Certified Speaking Professional. Now, that is all awesome stuff, but here's the goods. Let me tell you. Nikki has a degree in philanthropy, an MBA in leadership and governance, and when she embarked on this fabulous career in change management, guess who her first client was? The United States Marine Corps. So she has definitely put her time in. She is also the producer of the longest running independent PBS show and the president of the Dallas Press Club. So let's welcome Nikki.
By the way, what you need to know about me is that I'm originally from New York City. There's a couple, yes! And as all of you know, and I know that you agree with me on this, is that people from New York City, and I am Manhattan, the New York City, 57th and 2nd, as all of you know and will agree with, people from New York City are lovely and charming and gracious and kind and sweet. Is that right? In their own way, I hear over here. And so eventually what happened in my wending my way through the world is I went from New York City, Europe, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia, found myself in a little town outside of San Diego called Del Mar, pretty much on the beach. And that's where I got clients from the Marine Corps to the Naval Base, back and forth to Coronado, and I just loved it. And I think the reason why is, number one, I'm an only child. Combine that with being from New York City, I love telling people what to do. There we go, a couple of us, right? Now, I'm going to diverge for just a little bit because I think this is a momentous moment. For just a moment, please. And that is that the TV show that I am the executive producer and producer of, it's called McQuistion. How's that for being creative, right? It's been on 25 years, it is independent, and we are a C3. I raise the monies for it, grants, the whole campaign, the whole bit. But what I think is really magic is for the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination, we did 7 programs. In Dallas, we still have quite a few of the reporters. Well, I say quite a few. The numbers are dwindling, obviously. But we have a few of those reporters who covered it. And of course, this hotel, as you've heard before, and I don't know how many of you knew that, but this hotel is where President Kennedy and Mrs. Kennedy spent their last night. And this is the first time, and I've lived here forever in Dallas, but this is the first time I've been here. So for me, it's very momentous. But here's what I find rather odd, because what I was going to start with is a quote. I spend a great deal of my time with folks just like you. People who are committed to making the world a better place by getting and managing the contributions. And for my thesis, when you heard Shelley mention the philanthropy and development degree, for my thesis, I decided to focus on baby boomers because I am one, entrepreneurial women because I am one, and wrote a book on that particular segment of society. And what I found out in my exploration is that Americans, and with all due respect, but Americans are the most generous people in the world. That really got to me. And so as I did more exploration, I started the particular book that I wrote on this with a quote that I'd like to read you. Wasn't planning on doing so, but it seemed appropriate for a couple of reasons. Let me tell you why. The raising of extraordinary large sums of money given voluntarily and freely by millions of our fellow Americans is a unique American tradition. Philanthropy, charity, giving, call it what you like, but it is truly a jewel of American tradition. John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States. I learned that 54 years ago, he signed the executive order, and here you are. I don't believe in coincidences. I do believe in giving. So let me ask you a couple of questions. By the way, let me just say that these slides will be sent to you because there are some questions that you may want to take back because you are in the capacity of getting buy-in from other people and bringing back what you've learned at this conference and using. Is that about right? And I also understand as the world turns, you have some challenges, right? Don't we all? Let me ask you a question. How many of you made New Year's resolutions this year? May I see a show of hands, please? Congratulations. By and large, what the studies show is that you make New Year's resolutions, and within a week, guess what happens to your best intentions? Gone, right? Do you know how long I have been trying to lose just that right amount of weight? Any of you relate to that? Do any of you get in your car in the morning to get to work, and every single day you find a different route to take? Raise your hand, please. Oh, are you telling me that you drive the same route every single day? Uh-huh. Let me also ask you this. You've been here, what, 2 days now? How many of you are sitting alongside of, next to people at your table, and probably in your sessions as well, you sat next to people you came with, or you already know? Show of hands, please. I see. And you know what? I bet you that when you came into your meetings over the last couple of days, you sat in the same chair at the same table. In other words, all right, some of you are shaking your head no, and that's good. Folks, be honest with me. How many of you just love change? Oh, you lie. I know you do. By and large, we don't, which I guess is what makes the world fun and planning so very, very difficult, right? And so what are we going to look at? A couple of things. And that is that we're all pretty much alike, even though we're all very different. We have the same dreams, goals, aspirations. We are in the business, so to speak, of helping people see how contributions matter. And when I say Americans are the most generous people on the face of the earth, even in times of trouble and challenge, it amazes me they still give. Yes, contributions, donations are down, but they're down across the board, aren't they? I have to struggle to compete with every nonprofit in town, and some not, because everyone's after the same dollars. And yet we still give. My next question to you is, what is the most powerful force in the universe? I hear love. Thank you for playing. You're wrong, but thank you. What else? What's the most powerful force in the universe? Over here I heard the U.S. Navy. That's not a bad thing. Call out a couple more. Money. The most powerful force in the universe is force of habit. Folks, by and large, the bottom line is we don't like change. We don't change. We don't change even when the doctor tells us, you better listen up, right? And so I have an exercise for you. Because by and large, we're changing every single day. We're changing as we speak. We're changing as we're sitting here. We're changing our ideas. We're changing our cells. We are creatures of habit, but yet we're constantly changing. We're never the same 2 minutes in a row. You may not see this very clearly, but I'd like you to pretend a little. And these are supposed to be, now please, if you have seen this before, if you have done this exercise before, you're on your honor. You can't tell your table mates. Is that fair? If you have not seen this before, with your table mates, as you're eating dessert, is perfectly good, just save me some. That's fair, right? Thank you. Look at this, she had an extra piece all for herself. But Americans are the most generous people in the world. It is now mine. Thank you. What we have here are 16 squares. You see them, rows, 4 by 4. 4 by 4. And I can see 16 very, very clearly. Or there might be more. Your job with the people sitting at your table is to count how many squares that you see up there. You have 1 minute, appoint a spokesperson, get together, count, please. "30 seconds. What do you see? Are we ready? All right, come on back. Call out your numbers. By the way, how many of you came to a consensus with your group? You all immediately agreed. Immediately, right? And this is just about counting squares. I hear what? 24? 26? 33? 23? But going once, going twice? I hear 30. I hear 32. Going once, going twice? Sold. 30. Now, folks, this is not about counting squares. But this is about taking a look at what we have to work with on a daily basis and realizing there's more than meets the eye. It's not about regulations and processes and systems, and point by point, this is what we have to do in just a certain way. And I realize that for some of you, it is a certain way. But that's not the way we see the world. There's a lot more to it, isn't there? Interesting thing about change. We know there's nothing permanent except change, but let's look at how change and technology work together. In 2006, the IBM Global Technology Service stated that by 2010, the world's information base would double every 11 hours. Think about that for just a moment. Every 11 hours. They were wrong. They miscalculated. Because what has happened is that in the last 100 years, we have had more change than we've ever had in the history of the world. Isn't that amazing? Today, and plus these, 5 quintillion bytes, I can't count that on any fingers and toes, can you? But 5 quintillion bytes of data plus yearly, and more coming. Every single day we are hit with 300 to 500 messages. Any of you have a smartphone? If you have, what you've noticed is you've become addicted to it. As a matter of fact, if you have kids, they do not talk to you anymore. They don't even talk to each other. We're checking our smartphones every 6 to 5 minutes, 144.8 billion emails a day, and 28% of our time, if you're a knowledge worker, is spent checking them. Does that apply to you in any way? Do any of you have your smartphones right now underneath the table as I'm talking? Checking? Yeah? All right, if you're tweeting, I have to tell you, I mean, this was the most amazing thing. Remember, I'm a baby boomer. That puts me in a certain category, and I'm on the upper end. That's as far as I'll go, all right? I have 5 grandchildren, and my son and his fiancée and his 2 girls had just come back from Europe. They hadn't seen me for 6 months. They live in Northern California. Could have been longer than that. They're so happy to see me. They give me kiss, kiss, hug, hug. How was the vacation? Absolutely fine. They throw their stuff down. They're getting organized. We spent, the evening catching up with dinner, and then this is the new family. The girls were very young teens. Each one sat down in a chair and started playing with their iPads. Their parents, son, his fiancée, they each went to a corner and started playing with their iPads. And Grandma sat there. She did get up and make herself a very good double strong martini. I don't have an iPad. I like to talk to people. Technology has changed our world, folks. Right now, there are over 500 million plus Facebook users. And you know what? If you don't have at least 500 friends, this is very sad. You're nobody. Do you realize that? The world is changing and technology is to blame or to thank. I'm not sure yet. LinkedIn. You all do have a LinkedIn page, don't you? I sure hope so, and I hope it has really pretty pictures of you. And I hope you're really spruced up in those pictures. Because are you aware that today, in today's market, you can never get a job unless you have a great LinkedIn page? 1 billion visitors a month. 300 million plus members. Now, IBM did not know this, but when they gave those stats, and they miscalculated so very badly, they forgot back then to include YouTube. Because YouTube and Google are what we go to when we want truth and transparency, don't we? Reaches more American adults ages 18 to 34 than any other cable network. We spend 6 billion hours a month watching YouTube. That's 1 hour for every person on earth. Has it changed your lives in any way? It's changed mine. Can't tell you how many clients say, oh, well, just put it on YouTube. Oh, can we Google you? Oh, do you have a Wikipedia page? Boy, if you don't have a Wikipedia page, you're worse than nothing. It happens, right? Boy, don't we love change. Now let's look at something. Most of you are familiar with John Cotter. He wrote one of the seminal books on leadership. And what he said in 1995 is that 70% of change efforts failed to achieve their desired goal. That was 1995. We have gotten so much better, smarter, prettier, and older, right? So you would think. Let's look at the next stat. In 2014, fill in the blanks here, folks, 70% of all change efforts failed. Failed. Why? That was a question. Why? Because we're human. And by and large, as people, we don't like change and we fight it. We don't like the instability it causes. We don't like the feelings it causes. We don't know everything there is to know about the change coming, and change is rapid. We don't like uncertainty, do we? Now, obviously, I'm generalizing, but that's pretty much how we're wired as people. And yet, change can actually be a competitive advantage. If, and let's look at the steps, all right? We have to be able to know what that change is. Yeah, often we're blindsided, aren't we? Or we knew it was coming and we didn't stop and say, yep, it's true, it's happening. Let me identify. What's the purpose behind this? Identifying what the change is and what it's going to do and how it's going to affect you and how you in turn can impact the world through changes, because not all change is good, but most change is. And the only reason change is good is because it is. We can't avoid it. We cannot avoid it. It is. And so we have to be able to identify what the change is, be able to anticipate and work with and see, what are we going to put in place to make this work? How do I get people to buy into this when I'm having challenges myself? You know, folks, we don't change. Not really. I don't care how many therapists you go to. You don't have to admit it. But we can adapt. And that makes all the difference in the world. So, what do we have to do to make this work? A couple of questions. Remember, you're going to get these slides. But what I'd like you to be thinking of, if we really look at what change is all about, I think the first question we have to ask is, how does this change affect me? How does it affect us? How is it going to affect the team that's working on the projects, on the way we raise, on our campaigns, on everything we do? Because real conversations need to happen around this, right? I'm not preaching, but having been through lots of change in my life, I know it's tough, and yet, how's it going to affect me and us? Here's one that sometimes is really hard to bite into. How is this change going to move me, us, our team